What's up everyone, I'm Tim and this is my channel 40 Times Around, where we talk about everything related to motorcycles, camping, traveling, and adventure. And it's time for another monthly Q&A, so stick around. So before we jump into the questions, I have a quick announcement. Now, we recently hit 10,000 subscribers and I am just so grateful. And if you watched the video where I talked about how grateful I am, I mentioned that we're going to be doing a contest, and basically I just really want to give back to you guys, and so we're going to do this contest. I'm going to give you more details at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around. So let's jump into the questions, and we'll start with questions from the patrons in no particular order, and then we'll go from there. And the first question comes from June, and June asked, how do you stay safe riding in bad weather? And this is an excellent question, and it's something I definitely want to get into a lot more detail in a future video, or maybe a future series of videos where, you know, we could talk about rain, riding in hail, riding in wind. I actually have some experience riding in flash floods, so that's probably something I could give you guys some advice on. But just to broadly talk on how I deal with riding in bad weather in general. Number one is practice. You always get better at it. You're always improving. You always have to analyze what you're doing and how you can be better and be safer about it. Researching too, you know, there's a lot of great channels on YouTube you can go to for information on riding in bad weather or ways to improve your riding skills. Next question comes from Gus. On a multi-day trip, how many days of food do you pack? Would it be better to just seek groceries every night prior to hitting a campsite? And so, as I told Gus, I actually have a video coming out this Friday talking about finding more convenient, healthier food options when you're living on the road. I kind of get into a little bit of what he's asking about in that video, but just to talk about the things I didn't quite get into in that video, what I typically do is I'll get food every night, fresh food, because keeping fresh food on the bike good can be a bit of a challenge. So I basically just go food shopping every day. But one thing I will do is I'll always have an emergency meal in my bike. This could be even just ramen noodles, dehydrated camping meals, MREs, something like that. So I'm never stuck without food if I can't find a store. And then I'll just kind of get fresh groceries for the night before I set up camp. Now, I don't typically go off the beaten path for multiple days, right? I'm always kind of getting gas at least once a day, so I always have access to food at least once a day. Now, I know that Gus is actually getting ready to do the Trans-American Trail, and I'm super excited for him. I think that's going to be quite an adventure. In that situation, you may need to pre-plan for 2 or 3 days, possibly more, of meals. So that situation, I think you might be better off having maybe multiple dehydrated meals. And so that's kind of my opinion on carrying food. Okay, so next up we got Bob, and he asked, is it possible to push start any motorcycle, or is there anything that will prevent a bike from being started from pushing it if it has a dead battery? Assuming there is nothing else wrong, will fuel injection, for example, be an issue? This is a little tricky to answer. The best answer I can give you is that hypothetically any motorcycle can be push started. It's going to come down to how dead is the battery. If we're talking flat dead, a motorcycle with electronic fuel injection probably isn't going to start, not from pushing it at least. So my bike, for example, actually has keyless ride, and so my battery would have to have enough power to turn that on, to run the computer, and then I would still have to push it fast enough to get enough juice to kick it over. So hypothetically it's possible, depending on how dead the battery is. Now, if this is something you guys want more information on, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to put together a video on push starting a motorcycle, kind of show you what that looks like and how that actually works. Okay, now a couple of the comments and questions from my videos, and the first one comes from Sean, and he said, have you ever thought of using a small trailer on your bike? And yes, I have definitely considered this. My big thing with it is that I try to be kind of minimal on a motorcycle, and I feel like if I have more storage space, I'm going to end up using it and just bringing more stuff than I need. But to be honest with you, with all the camera equipment and the computer and everything else I'm carrying lately, I'm almost getting to a point where I might need a trailer to carry all of that stuff. So I've definitely considered it. Honestly, if you're looking to be really comfortable and, you know, have everything you need, it's a great idea to have a trailer. Some of them are even pop-up campers. So you're off the ground, you're in an enclosed camper, you have all your luggage inside it. So that's super convenient and really comfortable. Not a bad idea at all. Everybody likes to be comfortable, right? Just make sure your bike is capable of pulling the weight. Okay, next up from Jim Tom Stimson. I have a question. What situation could a young man, not retirement age, be in that he gets to take months off to ride? I assume you don't have a regular job. My answer to that is it comes with its sacrifices. I never really stuck to a career path, so I was never too afraid to walk away from a job. So what I would kind of do over the last few years is work somewhere for a few years, and then in between jobs I would take a few months off and use that time to travel. Or more recently, a lot of industries in Arizona have slow seasons in the summer because a lot of the snowbirds go home during the summer. They get out of the heat. So that's actually the situation I'm in right now, where my slow season is June, July, and August. So it's really easy for me to get time off. So that's kind of what I do. It definitely comes with its sacrifices. You know, I haven't stuck with a career for too long, so jobs aren't always great. I just kind of take what I can get. So that's the situation as far as time off goes. I'm actually thinking of maybe putting together a video on some tips on how to convince your boss to give you multiple weeks off, because I've had this conversation with several bosses and I seem to have a knack for getting 5 weeks to 2 months off from a job and coming back to still having a job. So I'll probably be putting that together in the next few weeks. Okay, Brian Gibbs. This question was actually on the motorcycle safety inspection video. Great video, Tim. If I had to guess, is that the camera guy's bike? So if you haven't seen that video right here, I had a different bike in the background, and yes, that's Bob the camera guy's bike. He's got a Triumph Tiger XR. Really great bike. It's a lot of fun to ride. I borrow it from him once in a while. And I just wanted to do something a little different for that video. And also I wanted to be able to talk about chain maintenance, so that's why his bike was there. Brian also said, all very important tips. If you ride, you have to be able to perform and check basic maintenance. So I have a question. On tire inflation, PSI, do you go by the tire manufacturer's recommendation or the motorcycle manufacturer's recommendation? We seem to always change tires after the stockers wear out. Great question. My opinion on this is that tire manufacturers' max PSI is based on the tire itself, whereas the motorcycle PSI is based on the weight of the motorcycle, the suspension, all of the factors specific to that motorcycle. So I would go by the motorcycle manufacturer's recommendation, even if you swap tires out. But I wouldn't max out the tire's pressure, max pressure, which shouldn't happen anyway. And so when I first started traveling on a motorcycle and I was still kind of new to this, I really debated with myself on where my tire pressure should be. You know, should I run them a little higher so the tire is harder and I get more mileage out of them? Should I run them a little softer? And I went back and forth on this for a while before I realized and kind of came to the conclusion that motorcycle manufacturers spend a lot of money on their engineers to research this, develop the ideal tire pressure. And so I think it just makes sense to just kind of go with what they suggest. They put a lot of thought into this. You know, motorcycles have safety ratings and things like that. They're not going to do anything that's going to screw that up. So they're going to really dial in what your tire pressure should be. You should have it as close to what the motorcycle manufacturer said. That's my opinion on that. Okay, this one comes from Carl, and he said, first, I love the Q&A format. Second, you did it well. Not everyone does. Thank you, Carl. I really do appreciate that. I have been thinking about switching to a hammock for the same reasons you like your lighter tent. Do you have any opinions on using a hammock? And yes, I do have opinions on using a hammock. And so if you've seen the video recently where I talked about using a hammock, I've kind of more used that hammock for naps, just kind of hanging out at camp for the day. I'll use it to maybe hang out and read a book and lounge around. I haven't done a lot of overnight camping with it, and the reason for that is I'm always camping in the desert, so I can't always rely on having trees. If I was going on a trip where I knew I was going to be surrounded by trees and I would always have somewhere to hang a hammock, 100% I would take it over a tent because it's so much lighter. And they're actually really comfortable too. So that limiting factor has kind of been the reason I don't do that. However, I think they're great. So yes, if you're going somewhere or you're always somewhere where there's trees, 100% take a hammock. Okay, and from Raging Redneck 93. Here's probably a dumb question, but is that header wrap on your crash bars? If so, even not if so, great idea to keep them from getting bashed up so easy. And actually, Foz Runner also asked me, what's up with the mauve wrap on your crash bars? Great question. It is actually a sports wrap. It started out as a black sports wrap, and once the Arizona sun got to it, it just faded and kind of turned like a purplish color, and I just haven't gotten around to peeling it off yet. The reason I put it on there was because I wasn't crazy about the way that the silver crash bars looked, and I was considering painting them, and I just kind of wanted to see how it would look, and it was easier to just throw some tape on it. I ended up liking the way the tape looked, so I left it. So it started as an aesthetic thing, just like the way it looked, and in reality, it's ended up protecting my crash bars quite a few times, so I've left it on there for that reason. And so I go off-road a lot, some pretty gnarly trails out in Arizona, and I do drop it once in a while, more often than I'd like to admit, so it does protect the bike a little bit. I know they're just crash bars, but still, you don't want to get them too banged up because they get scuffed and they'll start rusting, things like that. Okay, this one comes from Nothing Runs Like a Deer. Nice, Tim. Q&A vid is a great idea. Thanks again for sharing your knowledge and experience. Really looking forward to the next video. I was wondering if you were ex-military. So this is a great question, and unfortunately I'm not. I always kind of regretted that and wished that I had served. But during the time in my life where I should have done that, I just had other things going on, and so I didn't. I think what you're picking up on is that when I was a young man, I was a Boy Scout, and because of that, I think they really instilled that. Always be prepared, pre-planning, packing with some thought, things like that. That all I think comes from being a Boy Scout as a young man. So I think that's what you're referring to. I think that's what you're picking up on. Okay, next up we got Aaron, and he said, great videos, Tim. I like the way you express yourself. It helps a lot, especially for someone like me planning to do big trips around the world with little knowledge. Keep up the good job. Also a question, did you ever go on a long trip with a pillion on the back? I have the same bike, a bit older GSA, and I'm worried about the subframe. What do you think is necessary to reinforce the frame? Wish you all the best. Cheers, Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. And that's a great question. And so out of all of my total miles on motorcycles, I would say about half of them are with a pillion, with a passenger. I've done a couple of really big trips, even a 20,000 mile trip. I had a passenger on my bike the whole time and like a bunch of luggage. And I've never had issues with subframe, cracking, or anything like that. But if you've seen the documentary Long Way Around with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman, they did have issues with that. So it is possible. Now I even go off-road and I do some pretty gnarly stuff with full luggage and everything. I've never had an issue with cracking a frame. But it is possible. My suggestion would be go on about it as if it's not an issue, and if it cracks, then you know where your weak point is, and you should probably reinforce that. I don't think it's super likely. I think it'd be pretty hard to crack a subframe, depending on how crazy you're getting. If you have a passenger, you're probably not doing anything so crazy off-road. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Okay, here's one from Jim Zales. Hey Tim, another great vid. This is a bit off topic, but I noticed your bike in the background are those highway pegs I see on your guards. If they are, how do you like them, and are you able to stretch out reasonably well, and do you recommend them? Actually, I got another comment along the same lines from 103 M95G, and this question was, can you go over the mods on your bike? I see rocks risers and non-factory crash bars. What else you got? Great questions. And so as far as the accessories go, I'm going to be putting together a video soon going over everything I have on my bike. I have a lot of bolt-on accessories, protection, comfort items, lots of stuff like that. So I will be doing that very soon. As far as the highway pegs, I highly recommend if you're going on any kind of long distance trip that you get some highway pegs. Now, what I love about my bike is that obviously I have the regular foot pegs for riding. I can also put my feet up on the crash bars and kind of stretch my hamstrings. And then furthermore, I can stretch my feet straight out on the highway pegs. So I have a few positions to kind of always be cycling through, so I'm never in one seating position for too long. And this definitely helps make me more comfortable for a lot longer. So I highly recommend you get some highway pegs on any bike. And here's another one from Foz Runner. Hey Tim, you have to be the only ADV rider who blogs and goes way off-road who doesn't run knobby. It almost looks like you have stock Anakis. Great eye. Those are actually stock Anakis. I'm now running Avon Trail Riders because they feel better on gravel forest roads. Next up might be Midas EO7. What is your experience with non-knobby tires off-road? I'm thinking of doing some of the Idaho BDR. super jealous. That should be a blast. That looks like probably one of the best BDRs, so definitely let me know how that works out for you. I'd love to hear about your story and your experience with it. They recommend 50/50 tires. Not sure if it's necessary unless it's raining. I would have to agree with you 100%. Now, I used to have an 800 GSA, and I ran really knobby tires. TKC 80s, kind of big block. I've tried a couple of different like dirt tires, and they're great, but I think they're kind of unnecessary. I kind of got frustrated with them because I do a lot of miles. I ride a lot every year. I don't like to change tires every 2,000 or 3,000 miles, so I just kind of made a conscious decision, you know what, let me just get good at riding off-road with street tires. And so now pretty much everywhere I go, I ride street tires. I have a little bit of issues in soft sand, but it's manageable. The main issue I run into is mud. I've gotten really stuck in the mud a couple of times with street tires, and that can kind of be a nightmare. So if you're doing a BDR where you know you're doing a big chunk of dirt off-road, take a look at what their season is. You know, are they expecting to get a lot of rain? You may want to run some knobbier tires for sure. But if it looks like they're kind of in a dry season when you're doing your BDR, you should be fine with street tires, honestly. You'd be surprised where I take my bike with just street tires, some pretty gnarly stuff. And I've never really had any issues other than mud, like I said. Okay, so a few of you guys gave me some really great suggestions for video ideas, so I just wanted to mention these real quick, let you know that I did see them, I am working on them, and I think that they're really great ideas. So these are some things that are coming up in the near future. Thomas said, hey Tim, I was wondering if you can do a video if you have any tips on tires as far as getting flats and fixing them. And actually, Dyna Wide Glide also requested a video on plugging a tire. Definitely working on that. Dan asked me, I know what you must pack, but interested in how do you pack it for weight distribution. And so I am actually getting ready to head out to California in a couple weeks for a few days trip. And so I'll have everything packed on my bike at that time, and I am 100% planning on doing a video about what I have with me for that kind of trip, how I'm packing it, how I deal with weight distribution, how I secure things to my motorcycle and all of that. So definitely stick around for that. That will probably be out in the next couple of weeks. And the final suggestion I got from Daryl asked me about riding in the heat, which living in Arizona, that is definitely something I have a lot of experience with. And so that is also something I'm working on and should be out in the next few weeks. And a few of you guys actually requested a review of the unicorn raft seen in my last video. If I can get my hands on one, I will definitely do that. Okay, so now some exciting news. As promised, we're going to talk about the contest that we're having. So we recently hit 10,000 subscribers, and I am so grateful. I really wanted to give back to you guys. So I'm going to give away 3 t-shirt sticker combos to 3 random winners of this contest. It's your choice of design and color on a t-shirt, and if you don't see the color you want, we'll make it available in whatever color you want. We have lots of designs to choose from, so I'm pretty excited about this. The better news is it's really easy to enter. So last night I posted this picture on Instagram. All you have to do to enter the drawing is follow @40timesaround on Instagram, like this post, and comment on it, tagging 2 friends. And for an extra entry in the drawing, you can tag 2 more friends, and I will put your name in a second time. So the contest ends and no more entries will be accepted on Thursday, July 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll announce the winner during Friday's video the next day on the 20th. It's available to anyone in the world. I know I got a lot of subscribers and viewers from places all over the world, so it's available to anyone. So good luck, everybody. It's really that easy. Make sure you head over to the Instagram page, check out the post, and follow all those instructions by the 19th. So that's it. I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the little bell. That way you guys don't miss anything whenever I post something new. And if you guys have any questions for next month's Q&A, leave them in the comments below, and I will try to get to them. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video.